Hi everyone and welcome along. Last week we were doing some really simple, very loose watercolour Christmassy bits for Christmas card painting. Well, we've got another one for you today. I am going to do an advent candle featuring a little wreath of some of the things we were painting last week. So I'm just going to go for it, get stuck in there. I think my size 2 brushes may be a little bit big. I'll go down to a size 0. It's tricky because you want to you don't want to go too small with the brush because you want to make sure you can get a nice sort of loose coverage and a good coverage of colour whilst everything's still wet. You don't want to go too small. But I think the size 0 is pretty good. So I'm just painting in some berries using Cadmium Red, a little bit of Alizarin Crimson, but you can see as soon as they link up, the differing the differing concentrations of berry all start to sort of bleed into each other and make quite a cool little cluster. Now what I am going to be doing today is I'm actually going to be painting quite loosely, sort of everything's going to blend and bleed into one another, whereas last week we had things a little more separately. So I'm going to paint in some holly. We'll begin with one that's just sort of out on its own. So if you haven't seen the tutorials from last week, we've come up with a really cool way to paint in some holly, which is nice and easy. And so now I'm going to just very gently bleed into that, because sometimes those little bleeds and blends can look quite cool as long as you don't sort of disturb them too much. I'm also going to be featuring some other Christmassy greenery that we've not done before. We've got some pine here. Just using green gold to just bleed in. Of course, sometimes your previously painted element will have already dried, so there's no need to worry about colours bleeding into one another. And then every now and then just like a random little green leaf. So I'm just building up this sort of cluster of Christmassy foliage, can't say that, and then we will be placing in advent candles at the top. What I like about this green gold is, even though it's not really very accurate, it's not a bluey pine colour that you'd normally imagine, it's just got a lovely glow about it. That contrasts really nicely to everything else. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to anticipate the sort of the glow of the candle at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure my size 2 brush is really clean, and I'm just going to wet a little circular area. And whilst that just settles in, take a little bit of cadmium yellow and just dab into that area there, and that is going to bleed out and just lighten and soften, and that can become the glow of the candle. So we'll just let that dry. That's dried really nicely, and now I'm going to take a 2/10 brush and get some sort of concentrated Alizarin Crimson, and I'm going to paint a candle. So 2 parallel lines. And then just sort of paint around anything that needs to be painted around. And then just clean my brush off a little bit and fill in that shape with a bit of more dilute colour. Gosh, Alizarin Crimson really hangs around on the brush. There we go. Then at the top, a little sort of oval shape. And we'll get some flames, some cadmium orange and some cadmium yellow. Just mix those together so that we've got a colour that will actually show up on top of the glow. And then I'll finish it off with a tiny wick, just a little bit of black. And there's your advent candle. If you wanted, you could add a few little dots to the berries. It's a nice little extra detail. But that is another really quick and simple idea for a Christmas card if you're painting your cards.